Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to another episode of Comment, Foolery, Exposed. This is the TikTok edition. So, today we're going to talk about how apparently it is harassment against African Americans if you do not call yourself African American. That's right. We went from the one drop rule to mixed people are not black, and now suddenly if you identify as Creole, you are now harassing the entire African American community. Let's get into it.
Not everybody with a hint of brown in their skin is an African. Just like when you see a dark-skinned Indian, you instinctively know that that is an Indian, not an African. So why do y'all have a problem making that same distinction in the United States? It's just really aggravating and frustrating that I'm expected to completely deny my identity, to take on this identity to appease a group of people who don't even know who they are when I know who I am.
First of all, did she say a hint of brown? A hint? Second of all, I feel like us as African Americans, we are being harassed. Okay. Where do I file a report? I'd like to file a report on the harassment that's happening every day on social media. Please, can you just leave us alone? If you do not want to be African American, baby, nobody is holding you hostage. You don't have to be. We're not forcing you. Get your ass out of here. We are being harassed every day on this app. African American this, African American that, African American this. Oh my God. Can we just be left alone? What do we have to do? Put a petition? I wish they would just throw that word out. I wish everybody right now would just forget that word. I'm so sick of hearing it. Please, can you just leave us alone? This is harassment. This is borderline obsession. Y'all are stalking us. This is harassment.
So, I find it interesting how this woman talked about having a hint of brown in her skin. And the first thing the unambiguous girl did was say a hint of brown, like trying to say, you're too brown to be Creole, or you're too brown to be representing any other heritage besides African American. But then 5 seconds later, the woman says, if you don't want to be African American, no one's forcing you. Okay, but by questioning her skin tone and implying that she's too dark to embrace her identity, you actually are trying to bully her to represent unambiguous dark skin blackness. Isn't it interesting how unambiguous black women have been on YouTube for the past 15 years begging and crying and pleading and shouting from the abyss about how they so desperately wanted their own exclusivity. They wanted exclusive spaces and corrective promotion. And they wanted the women who represented them on social media and on regular media to actually look like them and to be dark skinned. So we've got a woman here who is not dark skinned, who is Creole, who chooses to identify as Creole. And she's saying, hey, I know who I am. Like, this is what my family is. My family is Creole. So I don't know if she's half Creole, if she's full Creole. I have no idea. But if she wants to show respect to her Creole ancestry, I don't see a problem with that. But apparently, if you identify as anything other than African American, or if you speak on African Americans on a public platform, you are now harassing the entire African American community. Meanwhile, we've got people who are obsessed with Creoles. You guys are obsessed with Beyonce. You're obsessed with policing her skin tone. You police her parents. You police what her children are doing. You police her dance moves and her singing. And you compare her to Kelly Rowland and you say Kelly Rowland's prettier. And you accuse her of getting all this work done. And you're watching her every move. We've got unambiguous black women who create entire YouTube commentary channels specifically talking about people of the exotical community. And when I say that, I'm talking about channels like Queen Chama, I Am Aloho, Impressive Channel, those types of channels. They give their commentary and they have the right to do that, don't they? Don't they have freedom of speech? So why is it suddenly an issue when a woman comes online and says, hey, I'm Creole and I want to represent that background and I know who I am. So stop trying to force me into a group that I don't identify with. Suddenly, by creating a TikTok, you're harassing Black Americans. So this aligns with my talking point when I talk about how they push you in and out of unambiguous dark skin blackness. Also, anytime someone gives the "you're too brown" talking point, that person upholds the paper bag test. Okay, so I don't want to hear anything about you calling anybody else a colorist if you uphold the paper bag test. If you are supporting the paper bag test, you cannot call anybody else a colorist because you're literally supporting a test that was used specifically to exclude unambiguous dark skinned Black people. So do you see the insane mental illness? So one moment it's you're one dropped into blackness because you're not white passing or you're not high yellow enough. And then the next moment it's, well, nobody's forcing you to be African American if you don't want to be. So what you're implying is I'm going to force you into the African American community, but then I'm going to bully you and say, "Hey, you don't have to be here. We don't need you." So we got this person saying, "Baby, you is black." Imagine if I went to Lupita Nyong'o's TikTok and I said, "Baby, you is black." Just like that, with no context or anything. Wouldn't that be considered colorism? So, do you see how once again this is actually proof that this woman does obviously have ambiguity because if she didn't, why would you need to remind her that she's black? What you're really saying is, "Get back over here with us. You belong with us. Get back over here and represent me." Shut up. You can't go over there and hang out with Creoles. You can't talk about Creole ancestry. You need to come here and be my representation. And then later on, I'm going to complain about not having representation and I'm going to use you as a scapegoat, just like how I'm doing with Tyla and Ice Spice. I'm going to force you to represent my community. And then later on, I'm going to complain about you benefiting from colorism, texturism, featureism, and anti Blackness. This person says Louisiana Creole is a subgroup of African American, just like Gola and Black Seminole. So I find it interesting how they're saying it's just a subgroup of African Americans. Okay, even if it is, even if somebody does identify as it being a subgroup of African Americans, so what? Who go and check her? Like, if somebody views mixed race people as a subgroup of African Americans, or you view biracials as a subgroup of African Americans, Creoles are a subgroup of African Americans, so what? Like, what's the point of saying that? You cannot control someone else's identity. You don't get to tell someone else how they get to represent themselves. If her family is Creole, I don't care how dark she is. If her family is Creole, or if that's the only culture she knows, or if she sees cultural differences in her Creole background versus African American, then that's her business and you don't get to control that. This person says, "A hint? Baby, you got the whole answer sheet." Saying like a hint of brown. So basically, you're black as fuck, is what they're saying. They're saying you're black as fuck. So stop claiming Creole. And isn't that interesting how they're using blackness? They're using brown skin, they're using dark skin and African American heritage as a humbling tactic. They think that by her creating a TikTok talking about being Creole, they think that she thinks she's better. Also, there is an obsession and a hatred of Creoles because a lot of people think that Creoles created colorism or upheld colorism or created the paper bag test. Regardless of what you think about Creoles, is that not prejudice to judge someone based on their Creole ancestry and assume that they're gonna be racist against Black people, so now you want to use Blackness to be racist against her? This person says, "My dad's Creole, but he knows he's Black." So I'm trying to remember when she said she was not Black at all, because this is another mistake that monoracial, monocultural people make. They think that by saying you're mixed, that you're trying to say you're not Black. They don't understand what it's like to have a multifaceted, multiracial, multicultural, fluid identity. They don't have that. Their identity is just one thing, just monoracial, monocultural. And so when you say, "Hey, I'm black and white," or "I'm, all these different things, I'm Creole, I'm whatever," they don't understand that. They get extremely confused because they're not multicultural themselves. They think that you can only claim one thing. So they have limiting beliefs about their own race and ethnicity and culture. And so when they see someone claiming their multiracial or multicultural heritage, especially if they're a non-white passing person, like if they have a brown to dark skin tone, oh yeah, they're going to definitely invalidate you. Because how dare you have a brown skin tone and be confident in your heritage? How dare you be dark skinned and embrace being Creole? How dare you be dark skinned and mixed at the same time? How dare you be dark skinned and privileged at the same time? How dare you not be white passing or not meet my stereotype of Creoles, but then you have the audacity to claim Creole? So, do you see the ignorance that they're showing? This person says, I definitely feel harassed. So, her creating a TikTok is harassing you. And then when the girl was like, oh, every time I get online, it's African American this, African American that. Sis, your algorithm is created based on what you click on. So, if everything you click on revolves around blackness, or Blackistan or what's going on in Blackistan, then guess what you're going to receive? You're going to receive anything that has the terminology African American in it. So if you don't like your algorithm, that's a you problem, boo. This girl says, she looks just like my friend who is from Nigeria. Her mom is from Nigeria and her dad is from Ghana. So she's trying to say, like, you look like the blackest of black. And isn't this interesting? Because if this woman were to get cast in a movie, or like if they were to say, hey, we need a representation of an unambiguous dark skinned black woman for Hollywood, and then they chose this woman, then they would complain about being replaced. And they would say, you only chose the acceptable version of a black woman. You only chose someone who goes past a certain skin tone. You don't want anyone that's dark skinned. You're erasing unambiguous dark skinned black women with broad features and 4C hair. So it's like, which one is it, sis? Do you want the exclusivity? Exclusivity means separate. It means that you're separating yourself from other people of African descent. So if you wanted to separate yourself and have exclusivity as an unambiguous dark skinned black woman who goes through colorism, texturism, and featureism, then separate yourself. Don't get mad when people of other phenotypes start separating themselves. And also, who died and made you the king and queen of the multiracial community? Why is it always people that don't even know who you are? They're not a part of your community. They don't even share your skin tone. They don't share your heritage. They've never met you in their life. They know nothing about your family history, know nothing about your language, culture, history, absolutely nothing. But suddenly, they are the queen of the Creole community. And they get to decide that all Creoles have to be white passing. Every Creole must have blue eyes and blonde hair. And if they don't count as Creole. And it's like, no, have you not heard of a multi-generationally mixed Creole? And also, let's talk about the double standard too when it comes to mixed race people, because when it comes to a biracial person, for example, people say that biracials are not black, right? So let's say you have one biracial parent and one black parent. Wouldn't that mean that you technically have a non-black parent? Because one parent is biracial. You said biracials aren't black. Okay, so then you have a non-black parent. So do you see the hypocrisy? Even when it comes to that logic, they have a double standard where it's like, depending on your skin tone, that's how they're going to decide where to place you. And this is why I say that you should never allow other people to police your identity. Always have an internal locus of control when it comes to your skin tone identity, when it comes to your racial and ethnic identity, because if a person doesn't like you or if they're prejudiced against you, they're never going to validate you no matter what. They're never going to say you're beautiful. They're never going to accept your Creole heritage. They're never going to validate you. Somebody says, I wouldn't have known she was Creole until she says something, and I'm Creole. So I've noticed that there's always a light skinned savior, a biracial savior, or somebody who wants to try to use their closer proximity to whiteness as a means to humble you. Like, oh, you're not light skinned because I'm lighter than you. If you're darker than me, you're not light skinned. If you're not at least 50% white, you're not mixed. If you're not at least 50% Asian, you're not biracial. If you don't have two monoracial parents of two separate races, you're not biracial. So I've noticed that there are people that do that as well. And when it comes to definitions like mixed race, biracial, multi generationally mixed, if you actually look in the dictionary instead of coming up with definitions out of thin air, if you look in the dictionary, it says that being biracial means you have ancestry from two races, and multiracial means you have ancestry from more than two races. And then multi generationally mixed is just a slang term that I hear on the internet, which seems to mean that your mixture goes throughout the generations. So I didn't hear this woman say that she's mixed, but I know that Creoles are mixed race. So I don't see a problem with her talking about her Creole ancestry. Has anyone noticed since the Exoticals have started taking over these YouTube streets, suddenly people are fighting tooth and nail? They're like, oh, heck no, you are not leaving us down here at the bottom by ourselves. You better get back over here and represent us. This person said, what do you put on your applications? Creole? So they're asking what box does she check? They're trying to imply that she can only check one box. This person says she said she put white, African American, and Native American, but if it's a line, she said that she writes Louisiana Creole. This person says, oh, she thinks she's white. It makes sense now. So apparently, if you call yourself Creole, you think you're white. This person says, if she talked to a KKK member, it would be over for her so fast. Why does she think she's white? So if you say you're Creole, you think you're white and you are harassing the African American community. This person says the hint is the teacher's answer key that got uploaded onto the internet the night before the exam because, ma'am. So they're basically saying, how dare you not meet my stereotype of how Creoles look? This person says they are descendants of U.S. slavery. They are Black American ethnically. Louisiana Creole is a Black American or African American subgroup. She is ignorant. So now they want to use slavery as a humbling tactic. Basically, you would have been a slave right alongside me. So get your ass back over here in the Black community where you belong. Get back over here and be my representation. How dare you try to represent for the Carmel Creoles? How dare you do that? You better get back over here and represent unambiguous dark skinned Black women with 4C hair because you look like you're from Nigeria and Ghana. That's how we all look. Never mind the fact that there's a multi-billion-dollar skin bleaching industry there. Oh no, we were all born looking like Creoles in Nigeria and Ghana. This is how we were all born. All of us were born with caramel skin. This person says, I'm Louisiana and Creole as well. My grandma made sure to let me know that my ancestry is a mixture of African descendants. Someone says, she's just hateful and misinformed. So apparently, if you're Creole and your grandmother told you that you have a mixture, they are misinformed and hateful. They hate themselves. That's why they told you that. So don't trust your family members. You need to trust commenters on TikTok. That's where you should get your identity from, is commenters on the internet. This person says, I don't even think that she's misinformed, but she's clearly ashamed of the African side because of slavery. That's why she only claims those other sides while having Negro features. Oh, so now all of a sudden they know what Black features are. You know how we talk about featureism on this channel, like keen features or kind of like broad features? Suddenly, when a Creole woman is talking about her Creole ancestry, you have Negro features. Oh, that's interesting. So if I told Lupita Nyong'o or somebody actually from Nigeria who's dark skinned that they have Negro features, how would you take that? This person says, she ain't misinformed. She full of shit. I just watched a video of her trying to speak Creole French and she mispronounced literally every word. So apparently, if you are not high yellow and you do not speak perfectly fluent Creole languages, you do not count as a Creole. I've noticed they do this with Hispanic people as well. So sometimes, in order to gaslight you, they'll try to be like, oh, well, are you fluent? You're basically not Hispanic enough. But this is actually proof of having a fluid identity. One moment you're not Black enough, the next moment you're not mixed enough, the next moment you're not white enough. This person says, LOL, until she said it, I thought she was talking about someone else, like somebody else being Creole. They want us to be insecure about our identity so bad. Like people want us to be insecure about our skin tone so bad. Like they're so desperate. They're so desperate for us to feel inferior to people who are whiter, especially if you're not white passing. This person says, for real, I'm feeling like Miss Sophia. All my life I had to fight. So I so apparently this woman is supposed to look like Miss Sophia, but this woman does not look like Miss Sophia. This person says Creole may be an ethnicity, but it's not a race. What's not clicking in that balloon head? Somebody else says, wait, there's a different Creole in America that's different from Jamaican Creole? Okay, I'm in the middle of editing and I just came across this psychological jackpot comment right here. This girl says, nose was wide as mine and kitchen tighter than the downstairs. She one of us. Yawn emoji. Isn't that interesting how she's associating having a wide nose and type 4 hair with yawning, saying it's boring basically. You're regular. This is exactly why I will continuously call out unambiguous, monoracial, monocultural, dark skinned black people whenever they make comments like, oh, this is boring, or she just looks like a regular black girl. Now you've got this girl with a yawning emoji because, you just have a wide nose and you just have type 4 hair. Yawn. Oh, that's boring. So, sis, you do realize that you're basically admitting that being yourself is boring. So, if she's boring because she looks like you, what does that say about you, sis? Someone said blacks were scattered around the world due to disobeying the Lord's law. So, of course, there are different Creoles everywhere. So, basically, you're not supposed to exist if you're a Creole because you're not supposed to be a product of race mixing. This person says, is Creole not just people of the colony? So basically, you were just colonized just like the rest of us. And it's so hilarious how they're literally taking all of this just from her talking about being Creole. She never said my family members weren't slaves. She said nothing about slavery, hair texture, nothing. All she did was talk about her family history with the Creoles. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.